Hey everyone, before I get into the video, I wanted to announce that the paint club is officially open. So basically the story behind why I started the paint club is I had been feeling like a lack of accountability, I guess, in my painting practice, and just really wishing that there was a place where I was sort of like pushed to show my work and to maybe also get feedback and just have that kind of accountability, encouragement, support system when it came to my art practice. And so I figured, why not start a community like that? So I've started a Patreon and it's called Paint Club, and I would love for you to join if you are feeling that same type of way. Like if you want more external accountability, if you want encouragement in your practice, more feedback, advice from other artists, just like a community of artists. If that's something that's interesting to you, I will link it down below and you can go ahead and sign up now. If you have any questions about it, you can also ask me in the comments or shoot me a message. I'm just really excited to meet all of you, to like connect with other artists and to see what you're working on, to see your work. I'm super stoked. So that's that. I wanted to share with you two paintings that I made last week. And they're two very different paintings, and mainly it's my feelings about them that are very different. So I just kind of wanted to share that with you guys and explain why my feelings are so different. And that's kind of what I ended up talking a lot about during this painting session and pondering as I worked on this still life that I ended up loving a couple of days later. So the first painting I want to show you is this. And the headspace that I was in when I painted this was kind of chaotic. I really wanted to capture a still life of what I've been eating lately. I've really been enjoying cooking and food because I'm having to go on this restrictive diet, and I decided like I need to just embrace it and really start enjoying food more and cooking more, which I have. And so I'll put up a photo of this moment. I had this lovely salad in front of me, which was super beautiful, and I really wanted to capture it in a painting. But I had no concrete vision for how I was gonna do it, and I was feeling a bit rushed and kind of chaotic, and so I just sat down and with zero plan, I attempted to make a still life. I didn't sketch anything out ahead of time. I had no concept of like the composition. I just decided to go for it, which isn't always bad. But I will say that morning, I was becoming so frustrated because I think I had these expectations that I was gonna be able to, without any preparation, sit down and capture like the essence of this salad that I loved. And I just had these really high expectations for this painting, And I became so frustrated at it and like kept painting over certain things and messing with the background. Finally, I decided I'm done with this painting, not because it's finished, but because I'm so irritated. So that was this painting experience a few days ago. And then the day after that, I decided to be a little bit more thoughtful and really ask myself, okay, what kind of a still life do I want to make? And what kind of still lifes do I like? And then how do I get from just like having this fuzzy idea to actually executing it and making a painting that I really want to make? And so with just a little bit of preparation, I ended up making this still life of a bowl of figs, which I really love. And I want to make sure that you don't think that I'm saying that this is a really good painting and this is a terrible painting, or that it has anything to do with like the style, that this one is obviously much more realistic and this one's more like illustrative. It's not the style, it's the headspace I was in and the fact that I felt in alignment when I made this one, like in alignment with the type of work that I want to make. I felt like I had direction and I knew where I was going. And so it just like, I was very much in like a flow state of creating a piece that the whole time I just like felt like in touch with what I was doing and fulfilled and excited about it. And this one was the complete opposite. It was like anti-flow state. So I wanted to share that experience because I think sometimes I make paintings like this And I think that I'm a terrible painter, or that one experience sums up my abilities as an artist, and it just doesn't. And I wanted to remind other people of that as well. Okay, so just to clarify also, because I feel like I'm gonna get comments of people saying like that I was being way too critical and like shouldn't talk that way about my work or something. I'm not saying that this is a terrible painting, like full stop, like that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that this isn't the type of work I want to make. So that's kind of like the contrast here for me, is the feeling, the contrast in like how you feel about a painting that you just know it's not the type of work that you're wanting to make versus one that is. And that might have nothing to do with whether or not it's good or if other people think it's good. Okay, just thought I'd clarify that. And kind of share with you how one day later I just approached it completely differently and ended up having like a really good painting session. I actually did this in a couple of sessions, so this was over the course of a couple of days. But anyway, if you're interested in seeing how I created this painting and hearing all my thoughts and feelings that I was having also, because I ended up just putting a mic on. I think the first few clips I don't have a mic, so the audio is not as good, but yeah, I just kind of chatted the whole way through painting this and recorded it. So grab your paintbrushes, grab your paints, do a still life if you want, or work on whatever, you know. But if you want to paint a still life with me, that would be very fun. And yeah, I'd love to see what you end up painting. So yeah, without further ado, here is my really long paint with me video. Thank you guys for watching. So I want to do a really simple still life, and I was thinking this basket of figs, but before I just go ahead and jump in and start painting, which is what I was about to do, I'm gonna do a few sketches, like thumbnail style, kind of like this, in my sketchbook, and actually play around with a few different composition ideas, even though it's very simple. I really want to ask myself before starting on the painting, like, is this going to turn into what I'm envisioning, or what am I envisioning? You know what I mean? For instance, the basket, like, I do really like how they look in the basket, but I'm also going for a really loose painting. And are all of these tight little lines conducive to a loose painting? Not really. And like, could I make them look the way I want them to in a loose painting? Not sure. So I think just sketching around a bit is gonna help me figure that out. And that way I can try a few different things, and then I'll just choose my favorite. So that's what I'm about to do, and I'll show you the thumbnails once I finish them. Okay, so I ended up putting a black dishcloth underneath because I knew I wanted to do a dark background, and it was important that when I was doing my studies, I actually had an accurate value scale to look at. And these are my sketches. So the first one was with the basket, and pretty quickly I realized that definitely was not going to be a good painting composition for me, even though I love how it looks in life, and even in, like, I think in a drawing, maybe not this one, but in a drawing, the lines could look quite nice. I just don't think with the painting style that I'm going for that it was gonna work. It's just too much information. It's completely taking away from the simplicity of everything. And the next one I did was just the figs on the paper towel, and I really like how this drawing turned out. So then I was pretty much thinking, yeah, okay, this is what I want to paint. 3 figs on a paper towel, dark background, very simple. But I had also brought out a couple bowls and things to play around with, so I ended up putting them on the paper towel in this shallow bowl with the orangey red trim. And this was my first sketch of that, which I did really like, but for some reason after doing this, I was still gravitating toward this. I think it was just because I kept so much of the bright white, so visually, like, this one is catching my eye. So I wanted to draw this one again because I do really like it. I love the shape of the bowl and everything. So I did another quicker little sketch of it underneath just to see how I would be drawn to it differently if I left more white and kept it a lot more loose. And I really do enjoy it. I still like this drawing a bit better. I was having trouble with my pencil because I wanted the lines to be like thick and gorgeous like this, but my pencil is really unevenly sharpened. It's one of the big ones. So I kept losing the angle at which I could hold it to get those kind of marks, and then I was ending up with these scribbly thin lines, which I did not like. Anyway, so I think my preference for this drawing comes more so from that, and this composition is actually my favorite. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna paint this setup right here with the bowl and the paper towel. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is with this light color, I'm gonna kind of map out the shape of my composition. So first I'm just gonna lay down like this is not the right brush to use. This is the one I used to mix the colors, so I'm just gonna use it to get that paint off, and then I'm gonna mix a little more and then switch. I'm not trying to focus on getting any actual detail. I'm really just trying to get the general sense of what the outline is. And this is just so that I can lay down this color. I'm gonna lay it down over this entire shape so that the paint that we put on top of it reveals a little bit of this kind of undertone. Okay, I think that is my basic shape. Now, I'm gonna mix the darker color. I've learned that I really need to cover every canvas or paper with a good first layer of solid color if I want my paintings to turn out the way I want them. Because there is just a lightness, like a white of the page that persistently shines through, even if you cover the entire thing with paint. If you didn't start off with one, like underpainting, then you're not gonna get the end result that I'm going for. So I'm not saying you have to do it, but know the type of work that you're wanting to produce. And if you notice something's not working, or that one technique always seems to lead to a specific detail in the end result that you're not satisfied with, definitely change that. That's something that it sounds so obvious, but I think we can get set in our ways in terms of how we paint. And a lot of the time when you're staring at like a blank sheet of paper or a canvas and you have this idea for a painting, you really want to just jump in, just dive in and start working on certain areas, and you don't want to think about the end result specifically, like what you have in mind and how to get there. And a lot of the time for me, that's when I skip the underpainting, because I just want to dive in. And then I realize later down the line that it's lacking a sort of cohesion, like a sort of oneness. It feels disjointed, and that can definitely be a style, or you can definitely get some beautiful results with no underpainting, or with whatever technique you choose, of course. Just know exactly which results you're after. And if you're really wanting to produce a certain type of work that you feel is just out of reach for you, and for some reason your paintings never turn out the way that you want them to, dive into little details of your technique and why that might be the case. Really study the work that you admire and the work that inspires you and you'd like to emulate, try to figure out like what's at the bottom of that. What is behind that change, that discrepancy. And a lot of the time it's just down to little techniques and habits that we've picked up along the way that we just forget to call into question. Okay, so I think I'm gonna stop here for now. This is my first stage. I'll take down the camera and give you guys a closer look. So this is my basic underpainting. I've got the dark background with a green hue. Make sure you ask yourself at this stage when you're doing the underpainting, like what are the hues, what are the tones that you're wanting to come through, and lean into that with your underpainting. I know a lot of times people do like a really bright underpainting with a color that they want to end up mostly hidden at the end. And that also leads to a really beautiful result. I'm going very subtle with this color palette. So it's almost black, but it is green. It's like a deep green black. And I don't know what you would call this color. Like champagne sandstone. Why do I think sandstone? I don't even know what that is. Maybe I'm onto something, I don't know. It's like a sandy, warm green. And yeah, and then I just quickly marked out the values, did a little sketch outline of where my figs are gonna go, and that's the underpainting done. Okay, this is where I start to like get tight because I'm worried that I'll make a wrong decision. There's something about like the underpainting stage. It has a sort of purity to it. Like you're looking at the painting and you can see everything that it could become. And it feels exciting. And like part of you feels like it's already perfect, if you know what I mean. Because in your mind, it's perfect and you haven't yet taken any risks or really put much paint down at all. So that's when I tend to like tighten up and get a little bit risk averse, and that's just absolutely the best way to make a mediocre painting, is to try to avoid all risk and all like sense of intuition. So that's my goal right now, is to just go with my intuition. I've done my thinking and I'm still thinking, but you know, I've done the preparatory sketch. I know where things are going now. So now I can kind of let that side of my brain that's more like planning and accuracy step to the side and like make room for the part that is more intuitive and free flowing, and not ask myself so many questions, just kind of put paint down, you know? And especially for like such a simple still life, my goal with it is to really capture like the spirit of the thing. And I want more and more to just paint things that are meaningful to me, because then it's easier to capture a spirit. If you don't really have a specific feeling about something, if it doesn't really mean anything to you and it's not part of your life, or at least like part of someone else's life that you're taking an interest in, I don't think that it's possible really to capture the spirit of the thing in the same way. So that's why I chose these Cadota figs, because I am just downright obsessed with them. I fell in love with figs, I think it was like only 2 summers ago. I had always like thought that I didn't like figs because I'd only ever had them like baked or made into jams or different things like that like really accentuate the sweetness of them. And so to me, they were just like this over sweet, sticky, like not delicious thing that I never cared to try again, really. And then a couple of my coworkers and friends came to work with a big thing full of figs from their tree. And like they were just eating them plain, like, you know, like fruit, just like sinking your teeth into it, not slicing it up, not adding honey or anything. And so I tried one like that, and my mind was honestly blown. I was like, this is the best fruit I've ever had in my life. Also, because they brought like the cadotas, these are cadota figs. And I think they had another type as well, but not the black mission. The black mission are still not totally my favorite because they are really sweet. And I like the ones that are a lot more subtle. Like these ones aren't over the top sweet. So ever since then, like that summer, I was like on a mission the whole rest of the summer. I was going to the farmer's market any chance I could to get figs. And I think that was 2 summers ago. So I did the same last summer, and it's summer again. And I'm just like, I must have figs. As often as I can, I must have these figs. And it's a very seasonal thing. So when it's not fig season, you can't get them at the store, which is honestly how things should be. I think we should be eating in season produce and just enjoying what is supposed to be accessible to us at certain times. Yeah, and there's just so much goodness there, like in enjoying something for a time when you have it, like when you know you can't get it all the time, it makes it that much more special. So yeah, as I paint these figs, I kind of want to put that into the painting, like all my feelings about it, about the temporalness of it, if that's a word, like how locked in time this fruit is, that it kind of like, to me, it embodies like the sweetness of summer and how fleeting it is. Even though here where I live, it's very hot. We have a super hot climate. And so a lot of the time, like summer is the season that we all want to be over, like quick. But I know in most parts of the world, probably it's the opposite. Everyone wants summer to be longer. But even though we have our fill of summer and we are honestly so sick of it by the end, there's still something about it that you just think of how fleeting it is and how precious it is. Another thing I've been thinking about is like, because I'm drawn to the simplicity of still life, like, no, I didn't say that right. Because I'm drawn specifically to simple still life compositions, I want to make sure that that's what I'm trying to create. Because I think, especially with like setting up a still life, there's this temptation to make it super lavish and like to try to include so many things. And not only is that, like, there's nothing wrong with that. I've seen so many gorgeous still life paintings like that. But I think not only is that really difficult, like, you got to be a master, a master, I'd tell you, to create a painting like that and like well executed. But also, like, it's not true to life, at least not my life. I don't usually have lavish spreads of things. I do on special occasions, but something about just like the 3 smallest figs, the 3 that I had left from my basket, which had been, you know, full, but I just can't help myself and I keep eating them. And there's only 3 left, and they're like the smallest, probably least pretty of the bunch. And they're on a paper towel because if I don't keep them on a paper towel, they'll get the inside of my fridge sticky. And when I looked at that, I just thought there's something so kind of extra beautiful about how simple it is. And it speaks of real life and like an actual little snack. It's so humble and realistic and beautiful. So that's why I wanted to just keep them on the paper towel and not, you know, do something extra over the top pretty that I normally like wouldn't actually be eating or displaying food in that way, you know? I think keeping that in mind will help me to make sure that I am painting things that speak of my real life. And then at the end of the day, too, like when the pieces are done and I realize like that does capture like my lived experience, even though it's just so simple, like even if it's just a still life of 3 figs, if it can capture accurately your lived experience and the way you feel about a thing and the way you experience a thing, that's really special. And I think that's way more interesting. And even if the viewer doesn't know that story, doesn't know like why something might be significant, doesn't know whether or not something is accurate to your life, I think it's sort of felt through the work, regardless of whether or not the viewer has any inside knowledge. They see it, they can feel it. Because everything is like it's transmitted through your hand into the painting, and everything is connected. Your hand is connected to your mind, to your thoughts, to your soul. Like what you're creating goes deeper than just the paint, you know? I think it's really crazy how big of a difference there is between what it feels like to create something that is in alignment with what you want to be making and what you love, and something that isn't. Like, I did a painting yesterday that I enjoyed working on. I spent the morning painting, which I usually don't get the opportunity to do, and I put out a still life. But then the thing was, I just kind of started working on it without thinking about it too much and just assumed that it would all come together. And it didn't. Like, I think the fact that I hadn't put any thought into it, then I started creating, and along the way, as I realized that the piece wasn't at all something that felt in alignment with what I like and what I know that I'm capable of, I got really frustrated and started to think a lot of negative things about myself, honestly. Like that I wasn't capable of making the type of art that I want to make. And then I realized that I just wasn't setting myself up to create something that I was going to like in that moment. I just wasn't putting enough thought in. Honestly, I just kind of went into autopilot and started painting and hoping for the best. And sometimes that's a wonderful exercise and it's a wonderful thing to do. But I realized that I need a sense of direction. I need to know what I'm doing and how to do it. And when I do, gosh, I feel just so much better. I feel like I can do anything and like I'm excited about what I'm going to create. Doors feel open and my ideas feel like this exciting thing that I can't wait to turn into reality, instead of feeling like this overwhelming thing that I'm afraid I'm not actually cut out to realize. And all that just because, you know, I sat down without much of a plan, but expected some like outcome that was completely unrealistic too. what I had actually set myself up to do. Because making this painting now, having given it just a little bit of forethought, honestly, it wasn't much. You guys saw it. It was 4 thumbnails and a little bit of messing around with composition and a little bit of forethought about colors. That was all it took for me to start making something that I'm really excited about and that I think is beautiful and has purpose and meaning behind it. But so often I just skip those steps and I feel really frustrated. So this has been really helpful to realize that it's quite simple. It's not that complicated. It's just when I skip those steps, if I want to take shortcuts and just kind of like skip to having made a great painting without having put that time and that effort into what I know is going to get me there, then like, of course, I'm going to end up feeling frustrated. And that's okay. Like, I don't need to beat myself up for having done that so many times. It's just good to remember. And that's how we learn. Like, this is how I'm learning to go about it a different way. Old habits and patterns die hard. Like, I think we all know that. It's extremely difficult to stop doing something a certain way if you've gotten really used to doing it that way. And so I think that that's been me with painting, because I've been painting for my entire adult life, and I mean painting professionally as a job for my entire adult life, and I've been painting in general since I was a child. And we build these habits, these ways of approaching things that just become second nature. We don't even think about it anymore. And of course, that's difficult to break. Of course, it's not going to be easy to just like learn a different way of being and put that into practice. It takes a lot to learn to go a different way and to forge a new path for yourself. It really is like a pathway in a jungle, and you need to cut things down. You need to like blaze a trail to get to this new place. And you can't just expect that having traveled that path once, that all of a sudden this is your new path and it'll be so easy to never stray away from it. Like, it takes time. You got to travel that path time and time again to like really, my analogy is falling apart. I mean, no, it's not, but you get the idea. Like, to get rid of all that the stuff in the trail, you need to walk it over and over. Otherwise, I mean, you're just going to end up going back to that other trail that was like super clear cut, and you can see where you're going. You're so used to it. You've always walked that trail. Like, of course you're going to not even want, but you're going to, without trying to, you're going to end up back on that old trail. So I guess what I'm saying is, don't get too frustrated. If you're in the same or similar position as me, if you find yourself just like falling back into old ways of doing things, even though you've worked really hard at learning a different way, don't get too frustrated at yourself. Don't beat yourself up, because that's totally normal. And it's honestly part of the whole journey. And even though it's frustrating in the moment, I don't think it's something that we would actually want to do away with. Like, it's what gives our progress and what we end up creating and who we become. That's what gives it more value. If you could just fast forward and already know the things that you're going to work so hard to learn, and there's going to be this beautiful, transformative story of your life, like, you would not want to just fast forward that and not get to experience it, just to be at the end and say that you had already learned everything. So as frustrating as it is in the moment, as annoyed as I felt yesterday after having spent hours on a painting that I really hated and just feeling so down on myself, I do realize that I wouldn't want it any other way. I wouldn't want that painting to have been a great success, because if it had been, then I wouldn't have learned what I learned. I wouldn't have been reminded that in order to create what I want, I need to take the necessary steps. I need to dedicate myself to it. There's a mosquito. And it's just so much more fulfilling too when I do. I love creating in this way, slowly, with intention, with passion, with curiosity. So it is now 2 days later. I got interrupted and wasn't able to finish that painting during that session, and I wasn't able to paint at all yesterday. So yeah, this is me picking it back up 2 days later. It's always kind of hard for me to get back in the swing of a painting, like after I've been away from it. I feel more timid about it. I'm not sure why. I think because I have to start from scratch and like remix all the colors. I no longer have what I was working with in my brain and also on the palette easy to access. So I'm just kind of trying to get back into the swing of this painting. I wasn't able to paint at all yesterday. I don't remember if I already said that. So these figs, they were just sitting in the fridge. I told Ethan, do not touch the figs. Although they're not his favorite, he probably wouldn't have eaten them anyway. But I wanted them to be sitting in the exact same spot in the bowl so that my reference would be the exact same. So they're probably starting to go a little bit bad, which won't stop me from eating them after I finish the painting. I noticed that like if I'm feeling tense about a painting or not at ease in any way, I tend to hold that tension in my body. So I'm trying to like pay attention to how I feel in my body. I was literally clenching my fist. I was like painting with my right hand and clenching my left fist and not even really realizing it, which I think is just evidence of feeling tense in my brain because I have stepped away from this painting and I'm picking it back up. And I really love how it's looking. So I think that makes me even more stressed that I'm gonna mess it up. But you know what? I'm working through that. It's something I've always been working through, and it's getting easier for me, but just trying to realize that my painting ability is inside of me. It's not what I put on the canvas. I mean, it is, but it exists inside of me. The evidence of my painting ability is not the same thing as my painting ability. And so if I make a bad painting, it does not mean that I'm not a good painter. So I think this is the stage where it's super important for me to ask myself, what do I love about this painting that isn't necessarily accurate to the reference that I'm looking at? And make sure that I don't just paint over parts that I really love, just in this attempt to make it more realistic. Because realism, like capturing a photorealistic image of these figs, is not what I'm going for in this piece. But it's kind of like the autopilot setting, I think. Like when we're looking at a reference and going back and forth and trying to reproduce it, we can kind of just fall into this autopilot of, oh, these are this shade of bright green, and we try to mix that exact shade and apply it to the canvas without realizing maybe I don't want to reproduce the exact shade that I'm looking at, because I can make decisions, like every little decision like that is going to affect the mood of the painting and like how the painting is going to be perceived. Does it necessarily have to be the exact same shade as the thing in real life? It definitely does not. And we get to make that choice. I think that's what's so cool about being a painter. You're getting to tell the story of the thing. You're not just a slave to the reality of how it looks. It's like a really special role that you get to act out. And I think a lot of the time that really amazing aspect of being a painter just sort of gets lost when we forget about it. We like forget about that power of getting to choose, and we feel like we are just kind of a slave to representing reality, or a slave to representing your original idea of the painting. Like, I think that's also worth talking about, is if you have an idea in mind, but then as you paint, something else kind of takes shape and it shifts. Are you okay with just going with that? Are you okay with exploration and like discovering where that leads? Or are you rigidly stuck to your original idea of what you thought you were setting out to paint? I think that can sometimes hold me back. I think that there's so much value in just being honest and sharing where we're at, even when we're not where we want to be. Like, I don't know, I could make videos that are like instructional and here's how I learned to make the kind of art I love to make, and here's how I go about doing a still life, whatever, and kind of come at it from that point of view of like an instructor teaching people. But I don't want to do that because it doesn't feel real to me. I'm not like talking down on myself or saying that I'm not teaching anybody anything with the type of videos I'm making, but like I'm being straight with you guys and sharing where I'm at and like the things that I'm actively learning. It's not like I've mastered this and now I'm here to teach you how I did that. Like, I'm very much just in this learning phase. And I'm so happy to share that because I think that we're missing a little bit of that. Like, a lot of the time people wait until they feel like they've arrived to start sharing like the story of how they got there. And so we don't have a lot of voices of people talking about what it's like to be like in the throes of figuring something out. And like maybe one day, many years from now, I will make videos of like, you know, like classes and be more of a teacher. But right now, like, I just kind of want to share what I'm learning and hear what you guys are learning too. It's way easier, like making videos every 2 weeks is easier when you're just resolved to make honest videos about what you're actually doing in your life as an artist. Like, I could stick to like a rigid plan for the topics I want to present, and I kind of did try that at first, but it just becomes too much and it's not fun. It's not possible to have fun, at least for me, when I'm putting that kind of pressure on myself. and having such rigid expectations for where I'm going to be at on a given week and what I'm going to be able to share. So I think just coming at it from a place of complete honesty and like, this is what I'm working on, this is how I'm doing, I think that's like the only way to go about it that's actually sustainable for me. And it's been really good. Like, I've really been enjoying making these videos and just forming like this little community and meeting so many of you guys who have a similar story to me or have a completely different story, like whatever it is. There's so many different artists out there, but we all have a lot in common at the end of the day. And I think it's just one of my favorite things about the internet is the community that it allows people to find. Okay, so I'm feeling really delighted with this painting. And I think I'm going to go into the background now because I'm undecided on whether I want to do much else to the bowl and the towel, because I do quite like the simplicity of it and these like rough strokes that you can see. I don't want to lose that. So I'm just going to go in to the background. But here's the thing, I also don't want to lose the texture that I've got going on with the transparency. So I think I'm going to mix a dark, but then add some white to give it an opacity and a flatness, and then try to keep this kind of texture going on, but have it look more finished. Yes, that is my plan. I was thinking of doing another like painting exercise video. You guys seem to really like the one where I painted film stills, and I really enjoyed that too. And that's something that I've been doing like whenever I feel like I just don't know what to paint, but I'm itching to paint something or sketch. I've been doing that and like pulling up that website and painting film stills, and it's just so much fun. I really love it. So I would love to do another painting exercise video, and I was thinking of different ideas for what I could do. I think a still life one would be fun. And I mean, that's kind of what this is in a sense, but like doing a video where we kind of paint it together, starting with setting up the still life and then creating different compositions. Actually, I mean, that basically is what I did in this video, isn't it? It just wasn't really formatted to be like paint with me, but I guess you could be painting with me for all I know. I don't know. Maybe you're painting. If you are painting while watching this, let me know what you painted, and I would love to see it. I would love to hear about it. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break. I think it's important, I know it's important, to step away from the canvas every once in a while and like get some perspective. In fact, I probably should have been doing that more often, but I think now is a good time. I'm going to step away for a bit, come back, and then really assess it with fresh eyes. Okay, I just realized when I looked at the camera that angle was pretty bad. You could not see the colors or really anything that I was doing, but forgive me. Look, this is my first paint with me, not on an overhead camera, so I'm figuring out the angles that work and that don't work. But from this angle, you can actually really see the painting so far. And stepping back, I am definitely getting a different perspective on it. So I am seeing that like I do want to change the bottom of the bowl a bit. And I do like this darker color that I'm adding in at the bottom. I kind of want the bottom half of the background to be a bit darker than the top. And I'm happy with the figs. But yeah, I do think there's there's a few little things I still want to change and work on. So after having gotten that perspective, I'm gonna sit down and finish it up. I'm trying to capture the way the variation in red is on the rim of this bowl. There's little areas where it's brighter, which is really pretty. Okay, I'm getting in my head about little details now, just like looking at the figs in real life and comparing it to the drawing. So I think I need to just detach from that a little bit, because I know if I obsess over details and trying to make the figs look closer to how they do in life, like I'm going to lose the charm of the painting and what I love about it. So we're just gonna move on from that. I'm really trying to strike a delicate balance between loose and tight brushwork, because I think I'm taking this more realistic than I had originally intended. Actually, I know that I am, because I also was envisioning this being like a quick painting, but I just kind of am getting lost in the beauty of this simple setup. And I think that that's why I'm really like just leaning towards depicting it a bit more realistically than I typically would or than I was planning on. I think a super loose painting of this would be gorgeous also, kind of more along the lines of like the sketches that I did. But yeah, I really love how this is turning out. Sometimes it's like that. I feel like the painting does kind of tell you what it wants to be. So you do the planning ahead of time, and that helps so much. And then the painting kind of like leads you where it's going to lead you. And it's not always the same place that you thought. But doing that initial planning, like for me, I think that that's what really saves me from ending up with a painting that just feels like I have no, it's gotten away from me and I am not happy with it and feel overwhelmed by it, like the painting that I was telling you guys about earlier. All right, I need to step back again, get another look at this thing. Okay, yeah. I took this really, really realistic. My goodness. It's just so pretty. Like, look at the highlights on the paper towel. I couldn't help myself. Okay, I really just want to add a little bit more of a pop on the rim of the bowl. All right, I think I'm calling it. I'm gonna do a little signature. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you painted along with me, I would love to hear what you painted, and I'd love to meet you and talk with you about your work in Paint Club. So see you there, or if not, I will see you in the next video. Bye. Okay, I had to document the eating of the figs. I've been staring at these for 3 days. Oh my gosh, it's so good.